guys, I wanted to talk to you today a little bit about the factions that are coming in X-Wing 2.0. So there's some interesting stuff coming, that basically the Resistance and the First Order are going to be their own factions. Now, first off, I want to talk about those factions a little bit. I think it's kind of interesting how they're going to be their own factions, and that kind of fixes some of the X-Wing and also potential A-Wing controversy. I'm like, well, how is the new A-Wing going to be sufficiently different from the old A-Wing? How is, because they seemed like the T-70 completely trumps the T-65, and, and so now with them being their own factions, it allows the A-Wing to be the Resistance's interceptor, whereas, so on and so forth. Plus, I think this gives the TIE Silencer some additional space and allows them to potentially fix certain ships like, the TIE Interceptor without, worrying about if the First Order eventually has interceptors. Things like that. So I like those aspects, and I like the idea of breaking up those different factions. It allows them to have their different things. It allows each faction to have lots of different potential little niches that they fill. One of the things that I was thinking about, well, what makes a First Order and Resistance different? Well, one thing about the future factions is they have the tech slot. But Scum and Villainy, as we know it right now, is only one faction. And you have, Constable Zuvio and these other characters from the I got some animals. I'm out here in nature. I'm on vacation right now. But yeah, you've got your little quad jumper, which is in the Scum and Villainy faction. That's also in this, the sequel trilogy that has access to the tech slot. So are basically all of the Scum and Villainy going to be rebalanced in order to, coordinate with all this other stuff? Interesting stuff. There's animals all over the place. That's what happens when you go on vacation, It's great. I'm not in my normal space. Speaking of vacation, there is still another round of the giveaway going on right now, which will probably be happening, concluding some point next week after I get home. And that's for a $20 Cool Stuff gift card. You can enter to win that by becoming a subscriber and leaving a comment on this or one of my videos. It's as simple as that. But basically, yeah, so one of the things I've been wondering about is, is the quad jumper going to be included in the Scum, conversion kit? Because they said all the ships were, and it stands to reason that they wouldn't have left one ship out, all right? So maybe it'll be redesigned. Maybe the new one won't have access to the tech slot, which kind of, might upset a couple of people, but maybe they'll eventually make a new version of the quad jumper or something even better. Maybe they'll do Kanja Club. Maybe they'll do, all these other stuff that, because there is Scum and Villainy in the sequel timeline, but that would mean 6 factions. And if they're going to do that, if they're going to add more beyond 5, that kind of opens the door for other factions as well. Like what? Well, let's talk prequels. One of the reasons I think they never wanted to do prequel trilogy factions is, there would have been some confusion because it's very easy in the sequel timeline under X-Wing 1.0. It's very easy to just say, okay, bad guys, no problem. It's the Empire. The First Order is the new Empire. They're the same faction. You can mix and match them, no problem. But what happens when you get into prequels and you're like, well, the Republic was the good guys, but they're also the Empire. So now you have Obi-Wan Kenobi and, and Yoda working for the Empire. It's like, what? So now and I don't think this is going to happen anytime in the immediate future, because jumping from 5 factions like they have right now, and it's still, you've only got 3 solid factions. The 2 other ones are going to be smaller. But the, 5, jumping from 5 to 7, whereas some of those original 5 aren't even fully flushed out yet, you're going to have a hard time. So it's not going to be easy to jump up to 7. But the thing is, also, you had like these Vulture fighters and, Vulture droids, and, maybe the CIS will be like a very swarm-based faction, and that will be their thing, and that's cool. And they don't have to even be, I would argue that they don't even have to be super in-depth, right? They don't have to have like 14 waves of ships right off the bat. They can probably get away with like only 6 waves of ships and still be an option, especially if it's 1 out of 7 options in a in a whole game for different factions. And also, are you going to do Scum and Villainy for the prequel factions? A lot of stuff to think about. But I would love to see more prequel stuff. I've been I've been saying in some of my videos that the prequels have been growing on me, and I get that. And I don't have a problem with that. You know, I think I had problems with the prequels when I was a little bit younger, when the prequels first came out, and they're like, oh, look at this Jar Jar Binks nonsense, you know. But now I think it's been so long removed that I think it's grown with me, and I'm ready for it. Plus, from a tactical wargaming perspective, there's a lot of material in the Clone Wars between the prequels and the Clone Wars, and and I think Rebels flushed a lot of that out for me because I'd always had a problem with the Clone Wars. Watching it out of order really messed with me, and so I got annoyed with it, and I never really got invested into it because of that. But I think Rebels has kind of helped pull me back in and garner an appreciation for a lot of the technology, a lot of the war fighting that was there, a lot of the ships, the fighters, the capital ships even. So the Republic would be great. I mean, that would definitely be great. Plus, you've already got certain models for things, right? A Republic Y-wing would be really cool. I think an Arc 170 is obviously they already have that. There's so many different things that they could do for that timeline. I think that would be great. So let's talk price points. So we're figuring that is about $50 for a conversion kit, and you're getting a lot of ships worth of stuff in that, at least for the first three factions. But what we don't know is, people are thinking, oh, well, I'm also going to have to do my first order. Yes, you're going to have to do your first order and resistance stuff, but since those are going to be pretty small, and the fact that they haven't kind of shown us those conversion kits yet makes me wonder if they're not going to have new stuff in them. If it'll be like, do you remember when Scum came out, right? You had, instead of just a separate starter, you had, the Most Wanted pack. And so that was kind of like your starter, but also had some new ships in it, had some extras, carryover stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if the first order starter ends up coming out, or the first order conversion kit kind of comes in the form of a first order bonus pack that also has extra ships in it too, or maybe a starter, or maybe something to make it different. Either that, or they'll just make it much cheaper. Like maybe it'll be $10, considering this is like 10% of the ships, or whatever they, however much they do. These or you might get one conversion kit that's a first order and resistance, although I think they do kind of want to keep them separated. So there's a lot of speculation there on how they're going to roll all of that out. I'm not entirely sure, but I think between the show Resistance and then episode 9, we're going to have a lot of stuff for the first order and for the resistance that are like ready to go. Like right now we already have the A-wing, which is ready to go. Okay, we also already have the this transport. Now, this was in episode 7. This modified old B-wing style transport that was never put out. Now, the cool thing about this, I understood why they didn't do it, because I'm like, okay, we have enough shuttles, we have enough shuttle type transport type vehicles in the game, but the Resistance really doesn't have one. I mean, they have the new Millennium Falcon, right? They have Rey and the Millennium Falcon. Okay, not a problem. But that's not really, it's not really a transport. So this one can fill a different role. This one can fill that Lambda style role. And I think when we saw the Upsilon, it was kind of like, really another shuttle? I mean, it looks cool, but did we really need another shuttle? Now it makes sense. Maybe this was being planned for a very, very long time, because you want there to be certain things, certain support ships that are crucial. You want certain identities to exist amongst all of the factions. You want your well-rounded fighter, you want your really fast fighter, maybe you want your tanky fighter, maybe not everybody's going to get a bomber, maybe some factions will have stealth available to them, some factions won't, and depending on which, if they add more factions or new stuff that's coming out. But there's certain key archetypal roles that you're going to want, and I think the Resistance could use a dedicated support style transport. So I think that hollowed out B-wing will come from that. Also, the shuttle that Finn and Rose are on in episode 8 is it's like and I'm pretty sure it's the cockpit of one of those. So maybe it'll have a deploy functionality, or maybe even it'll serve as a lifeboat, perhaps, like kind of like how the Houndstooth and the Nashtappup, how it only deploys if you get blown up. So there's also the possibility it could be something like that. It lends us to a whole bunch of extra speculation. You also have the ship that DJ flew on. And that one was a newer ship. That'll be a pretty high speed. That'll be like an interceptor, really cool looking ship. But the big question there is that going to be for a new sequel Scum faction, or is that going to go into regular Scum and Villainy? Because Like, if you're looking at balancing all of these factions, I think Scum and Villainy might be the hardest part if you're including all timelines in the Scum and Villainy faction, because none of the other factions are including all timelines, right? But or will they? Or will they is a big question, because the other thing is, when DJ and Finn are on, you know, this ship and they're looking through all the stuff that the First Order's bought, you see TIE bombers and TIE interceptors on there. Now, we don't know if that's a special First Order variant, or if the First Order is actually using old school TIE bombers and TIE interceptors. So that's, and again, that's more design space for them to explore. Maybe the First Order will get a TIE interceptor, like vintage a legacy ship, you know, and it's a special TIE interceptor that the First Order can use, exactly the same ship, but it's older, so maybe its stats won't be as good, or maybe it won't have any unique pilots, or, you know, there's a whole kinds of stuff. Like, I would rather them not do that. I'd rather see the First Order's version of an interceptor, and there's got to be something between a TIE F or a TIE SF and you know, and the TIE silencer. I think it's supposed to be the TIE SF. But I mean, they can do better than that. They can get fancier. If you know that you guys can make them folding, you know, them sleek aerodynamic wings, and you know, and when they've proven that they can do that with the silencer, then I'm sure they could do more. Oh, we got big old flies buzzing around here too. All right, well, I need to call it, and I need to get inside before I get bitten up. All right, guys. But if you like this video, go ahead and give me a thumbs up and let me know what you think. You know, let me know what you think about factions. How many more do you think they're going to add? Do you think they're going to do prequel stuff eventually? I think if they do, it's probably going to see how successful 2.0 is. So maybe like a year and a half from now, maybe Gen Con 2019, we'll see. You know, but I mean, I like having that versatility. But if I could only pick one game for prequel factions, I'd probably pick Armada, because some space battles were more epic and grand in scale. But we'll see. I'd like it for all that stuff to be available in all the games. But let me know what you guys think. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.